So when we grabbed this, we accidentally hit it so it was muted. Anyways, thank you for joining us. You can hear me now. So sorry about that. Anyhow, we're going to go ahead and begin. Should have checked that immediately because I made that mistake before. But we're good to go. And Alana Joe, come on over here. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. So, are you ready for a good weekend?
Yep.
Yeah, it's another one of those crazy weekends of soccer, starting bright and early tomorrow, right?
Yep.
I mean, she's going to be humble, but she is so fun to watch. She is a star athlete, wonderful soccer player. She practices all the time, and when you practice, you do quite well. Oh, and look at this. I have some sweaty people that have just came in straight off their bikes, coming in here from Oso Grande Elementary School. Yes, they have cycled home. Took them a little while to get here, but that's okay. We're glad to see you. You ready for a good weekend?
Yeah.
What are you going to do this weekend?
I'm gonna do soccer games.
Soccer games. Okay. Sounds familiar, right? Also, another awesome star athlete, Mason and Athena. What are we going to do this weekend?
I'm going to Nana and Pappy's house and spending the night and have a soccer game tomorrow.
Oh, that's
And
right.
it's Mother's Day on Sunday.
Oh, yes. Mother's Day on Sunday. How fun is that? So fun. So we have Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all those mothers that are out there. And I have a wonderful wife who is an incredible mother of all of these children. And boy, I think even on Mother's Day, we get our 19-year-old. He's 19, right? Yeah, or just about to turn 19.
Yeah, about to turn 20.
Really?
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, about to turn 20. Brandon's on his way back from Washington State University. But thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Go ahead and close that door. On Sunday night, it'll be like when we're asleep, he'll be coming home. Anyhow, we'll have him do cameos as well. Sorry about that sound issue at the beginning. I grabbed my mic and I hit the mute button on the side. One more of those things that you learn from those lives that you do. But anyway, I'd like to go ahead and begin. And the Housing Debrief, episode 12. Thank you. Happy Friday to everybody. And without further ado, let's get this show on the road. And I'd like to, of course, thank our wonderful sponsor, Kevin Buddy from Monarch Coast Financial. And Kevin Buddy deals with more than one kind of borrower, more than one kind of loan. He deals with full documentation loans, alternative documentation loans, investor financing, private money loans. So it's everything from full doc to private money and everything in between. And has loads and loads of experience. Kevin Buddy, good friend of mine, and he's been doing this since 1976, has loads of experience. Tap into his experience. He knows what he's doing. And Kevin Buddy at Monarch Coast Financial, you can contact him at 949-422-2075. That's 949-422-2075. It's easy for me to say, tongue twister, 422-2075. So contact Kevin Buddy and let him help you and your clients. So Reports on Housing, that is our company. It's your local real estate snapshot. It's about giving you power and strength in the marketplace to understand what's going on. For the agents that subscribe to the report, they understand. They're able to articulate exactly where we are in the marketplace and to properly set expectations of where we're at, where we're going, and the different nuances of the market. So we don't focus a lot on the rearview mirror, looking behind us and looking at closed sales data. I already have a good idea. April closed sales data is going to be off the charts. It's going to look absolutely fantastic. We're looking at about 10% year over year by the end of the year change in volume. And it's going to be the highest volume that we've seen in quite some time, very driven by these low interest rates. But who cares about the closed sales data? It's in the past. You can't really you can't really figure out where you're going today if you're looking through the rearview mirror. Instead, you want to look out the windshield and you want to see, hey, what's ahead? And what tells you that is, what does the inventory supply look like? Supply and demand, the last 30 days worth of pending sales. And from that supply and demand, we're able to get you how fast this market really is moving. Is it moving slow or is it moving really fast? And right now, of course, we know it's moving really fast. It's about setting expectations of buyers and sellers. And let's see. So we have reports that dot all over Southern California. And the most recent one that came out this week was for Orange County, Los Angeles, and San Diego. It is on the endangered list. And it's really talking about how that lower end is vanishing and what's going on. And I can see it in every county. There's different nuances to the various counties. So we did that for along the coast this week. This coming up week, we're going to do it for the Inland Empire, Riverside County and San Bernardino counties. So both of those counties, we'll be bringing that next this coming up Monday. So reportsonhousing.com, go there, click on subscribe, and you'll get the most recent report with a ton of links at the bottom. They're emailed to everybody, and it comes out every 2 weeks. So this coming up week, San Bernardino, Riverside, following, of course, will be along the coast again. And $15 per month or $150 per year, and you get a month free if you sign up utilizing the coupon code pricing. And now let's get into it. When will prices drop? That's the big question. So when are prices going to be dropping? And I get this a lot because there are some people that say, yeah, I'm going to wait until prices drop, or, prices are going to drop at the end of the year. And I don't even know where they're getting all this information. But really, I want you to rely on the stuff that I put together because I actually have an economic model that I follow. It's the local housing market, as every nuance, as well as national housing market, as well as the national economy, local economy. We're putting everything into it so that we kind of understand exactly where we're at and where are we going to go. So that is what I am going to rely upon, because there's plenty of false information out there. You can find plenty of people that will tell you something and they'll sound convincing, but they will not have the economic model to back it up. And in speaking of that, let's talk about housing. And quite frankly, it is nutty. It's like the squirrel eating just a bunch of nuts. It's nuts. It's crazy out there. And it really boils down to supply and demand. And that's what we're going to have to talk about today, is the good old fashioned supply and demand. I just had an agent tell me that, hey, back in 2014, you said, hey, it's a supply and demand issue, and that the market's going to continue to be great. And it really boils down to, that's what we've been experiencing, the supply and demand issues. And we'll get into the inventories where they're at currently. This is a snapshot of last Thursday. So I do these every Thursday. And on April 29th, we were just shy of 16,000. It was down 2%, or shed 276 homes in a 2-week period of time. And this is where we were this year compared to last year. But I want to show you more of the 5-year average, because you really can't compare this year compared to last year. Especially last year we did one of our lives based upon why you can't trust the data when you're doing year over year, especially in housing. So the 5-year average is 38,634, which is 142% more than where we are today, which means that we're almost 2.5 times as many homes on the market as to where we are today. In snapping the numbers, actually from last week through today, 15,980. It's just 3 less. So it's basically the same inventory level. So inventories have not changed at all. So actually, they have changed in the nuances of the various counties, but overall, the total has not changed for Southern California. And if you look at this, what set this up, and I brought this up last week, is we peaked. Typically, we peak between July and sometime in August, and instead we peaked way earlier, and that was at the end of April, start of May. And from that point on, we just kept on going down in the inventory. And a lot of it had to do with COVID, and a lot of it had to do with demand being so high as we got into the July months that it really ate into our housing stock throughout Southern California and across the nation, leading us to the very end of 2020. There's just not enough homes. And if you look at that, this phenomenon didn't really just start in last year. It's been going down since 2019, since we just about reached 5% interest rates. After that, we saw interest rates falling, and they've pretty much fallen all the way down to into the twos. And so we've seen them come down like crazy. So anyways, if you see where it's going and where it's at right now, it is at levels that we've never seen. So these inventory levels are so low, and it's really created a problem. And then I wanted to get into this new for sale signs compared to the 5-year average. So I did April 1st to April 15th. And this number is pretty accurate if you look at it. And this is only a 2-week period. So I'm looking at that 2-week period of mid-April. I can't look at it from April 16th through the 30th because the numbers keep on changing. People backdate things, and the numbers are too skewed. But you can just about double these numbers to get an idea of where we're going to be for the month. So for 2 weeks, 1,677 amounts to 3,000 fewer for sale signs in all of Southern California. And if you look at the various counties, even LA County is having a problem in the month of April. And that's 4% less, or 164, which is about 300 fewer for sale signs, which is not a ton, but LA was positive for the month of March. And if you look at Orange County, down 13%, missing 262 homes, that's 500 fewer homes. But if ask any buyer that's out there and they want to see more homes on the market. And Riverside County, down 17%, or missing 425. San Bernardino County, down 22%, missing 400. And then San Diego County, missing 17%, or down 425. That's a lot of missing for sale signs throughout Southern California in a time where we want more homes to come on the market. And this is a analysis that was done by CAR, and they ask this on a monthly basis. Have you had any clients holding back from selling because of coronavirus? And they're asking this to agents, and 44.4% said yes. And then, have you seen any sellers remove their homes on the market completely this week? And it said 6% said, it's right around there, said yes. But you have to understand that there are people that are on the market, and then they see that there's nothing for them to buy, or they go into escrow, or they're about to go into escrow, and they say, forget it, there's nothing for me to buy, and they pull their homes off the market. I've seen a lot of that's gone on. I heard a lot of that anecdotally. But really, I want to focus on, have you had any clients holding back from selling because of coronavirus? Said 44.4%. This makes it sound like once COVID is done, that all of a sudden we're going to get an onslaught of homes that come on the market. And I'm here to burst the bubble of everybody and state that I don't believe that that's what's happening. I actually asked about 15, 20 agents that I knew from all around the Southern California. I was asking them this very question. And there are some that are seeing a little bit of COVID-19 keeping people from placing their homes on the market, but that's not really what it is. And I think I've got my finger on the pulse of what it really is. I think this is a very misleading statistic, because we feel like, boy, as soon as COVID is over, that this thing is just going to be off the hook. Well, I'm here to say that it's not COVID-19. I think really it boils down to low interest rates. And low interest rates is causing a lot of different problems. And if you see, we've had 17 record lows. We got all the way down to 2.65%. And now, as of this week, we're at 2.96%. That's where we are today. And if you look, we've actually been going down in rates for a super long time. And since the 1980s, it's been on a downward trajectory. But see, rates are so low and the market is so good that sellers, you know what, this would be a good time to be a homeowner, because they've heard of all the people that are getting $25,000, $50,000 above asking price. It's true that just about 2/3 of all sellers are getting more for their home, more than the asking price. So it's great to be a seller, right? However, it's not so great to be a buyer. So a lot of homeowners are saying, I don't know if I want to participate because the market's just so hot. what am I going to purchase? I'm going to have to get in line with everybody else and be a part of the madness, craziness that is going on right now. And these stories abound across the United States. I heard of a property right at, $1,900,000, and they had like seven offers on it. It ended up going $250,000 above asking price because it got into this frenzy, and it was just after coming on the market. That came on the market on Thursday. They had all these offers and showings on Saturday, and it was an escrow by Monday morning. $250,000 above. It's every price range that we're hearing this from. And the problem is there's just nothing on the market. I just illustrated how we have very few homes on the market historically where we're at today. It's not like the good old days where you could take your time a little bit. Even in hot sellers markets have passed, it's been at least so that you could look at homes for a week or two and purchase, especially within the higher the price range. But that's just not what the case is today. And another aspect of what I think is keeping homeowners from placing their homes on the market is the market is doing so well that they just don't want to sell because they see that their home's going up really, really fast. They just don't want to walk away when it's so good. So they'd rather just stay put and not place their home on the market. I think that, and in combination of not finding anything to buy to replace the house that you're selling, is keeping a lot of people in their homes. It's very hard to walk away from a home when your home is just surging in price. And so, which leads us to demand. And demand, of course, has just been rocketing forward. And it's because, and the gas that is fueling that awesome, really fast go-kart is low interest rates. And if you see, this is where we are demand-wise. This was, as of last Thursday, April 29th, 19,575. That was a week ago yesterday, up 1%, or an additional 267 pending sales in a 2-week period of time. And can't really compare it to last year because last year we were in the midst of the start of COVID. We were starting to come out of it in May, as you can see with that green line going up, which is why you just can't compare it this year to last year. So the 5-year average is actually 18,254, which is 5% less, or about 1,000 fewer pending sales for a 30-day period of time. That's demand, that 30-day snapshot. So we're doing about this sort of 5% less. That's the 5-year average. And today we're at 19,891. That's up another 2% since last week, or an extra 316 pending sales, which is typical for May. Typically we peak sometime in May. So I'm going to think that we're probably going to peak at the end of the May because we were going down a few weeks ago. I still think that there's a little bit more juice in the market until we get to the very end of May when things start to change. And so how fast are we going? That really is the question. And the answer is quite simply super fast. We have an expected market time as of a week ago yesterday of 24 days. It was down 1 day because it was 25 days 2 weeks prior. So down to 24. And if you look at where we were last year, you can't compare it to last year because we were in the midst of COVID. But the 5-year average is 64 days. So way lower than the average, that's for sure. And today we're at 24 days. So you can see we actually had a slight increase in demand and off by 3 homes for the inventory. So even with demand coming up, the numbers didn't change much. It actually changed really a half a day if I look at it. But in rounding terms, we went from 24 days to 24 days. So it's not really that big of a change. But at 24 days, we're screaming upwards in value. And so let's get back to the supply and demand. And supply, where we are at today, historically, it's just it's so low. And what we need is we need more inventory. And that is what we need in order for, if you look at that supply and demand, in order for the market to slow, we need more supply. We need demand to go down in order for prices to reverse. So we're looking at supply and how can we increase it? I've heard that, we're behind in construction. Yes, we are behind in construction. We need to have more permits, but that's not really what the answer is. That's the long-term answer, but we're not going to be able to fix that problem overnight, especially along the coast in Southern California. This is not going to be fixed really fast, and across California, it's also going to be a hard one to fix overnight. And this is only part of the equation. This is not really where the fix is for our current crazy marketplace that we're in. So I'm going to throw that one out there. A lot of people say, well, there should be these wave of foreclosures coming because of all forbearance. But if you followed all of my stuff, you'll see that we're not going to see that many foreclosures or short sales. It's a much different situation. So that's not going to happen. It's more going to be a ripple. So it's not going to really affect once these come back online. It's not going to add that much more to inventory. That's not where the answer lies. Prop 19, we passed that. That's where 55 and older, you can do it more than once. You can bring your tax base more than once. Now you can purchase up, and that was supposed to add more sellers to the mix. And that's not really what the answer is. That's not going to move the needle much. So, Stephen, what is going to move the needle? That's what the $100,000 question is, and it's higher rates. And I've been talking about this for quite some time. This is the answer to this, and the only way we get beyond this is for certain things to happen. And if you look at this, we were starting to get higher rates because remember, we started off this year at 2.65%, and then we watched the 10-year Treasury go up from where it was below 1% to up about 1.7, and it was knocking on that door of 1.7, and we saw interest rates go from 2.65 to about 3 and an eighth. There was even a moment there where we saw them even at 3 1/4. But then what's happened since they went that high? Well, interest rates the 10-year started to go down, which in turn so did rates. And if you remember, that what happens with the 10-year happens with the 30-year mortgage spread. So that's why I bring up the 10-year, because that's the appetite for 30-year mortgages as well. So you could see that it remains in this channel. So this is why I follow that 10-year, and it's kind of been doing absolutely nothing over the course of the last couple of months. So that's why it's actually come down a little bit. Like I said, so now that brought us back to where we have interest rates that were about 3 1/8, and now we've got them to just under 3%. And you have to understand that the Federal Reserve is playing with the marketplace as well. They're all in. They're not going to change. They're buying mortgage-backed securities. It's called quantitative easing. They've been doing that since we got into this thing, and they have no interest in getting out of this thing anytime soon, which is adding to interest rates being even lower than they would be if the market just worked on its own. So, and I can argue offline, but tell you that I think they need to get out of this. And at least I'm hearing some of the members of the Fed are starting to say that they need to start talking about the quantitative tightening rather than the quantitative easing, putting their foot off of the pedal. And there is a lot of pressure for the 10-year Treasury to rise, and the pressure is mounting, and it is in good economic numbers. Today's jobs picture wasn't as strong. Their job numbers came out. It was not nearly as strong as what they were expecting. They're expecting near 1 million. Instead, it was a total miss. And there's a lot of people that believe that the numbers are going to start looking a lot better in the month of May because we are opening up things, and there are a lot of states that are getting rid of the additional unemployment, and we're going to start to see. You can feel the momentum. If you don't think the momentum's there, try to go to a restaurant tonight and see what it's like, what the wait is like, because we're starting to feel the effects of being vaccinated and everybody wanting to get out there and do things. But speaking of vaccinated, brings us to another thing that kind of like puts a damper on things, and that is the world. Because it's not, remember, we're intertwined in all these other world economies, and COVID is a big piece of the puzzle. Getting into the other side of this is not just us being vaccinated, but it's the world getting vaccinated. And that kind of like pulls that 10-year Treasury down too when there's problems like there have been in India. the good news is, as you can see, the global has hit a height and is starting to come down. We just need to see more of this, and we need to see more and more countries get vaccinated and have really strong vaccination programs, and so that we can get to the other side of this thing completely. And and then another thing that is going to factor into things is, as the market starts to improve and we get we get interest rates that go up, we're going to get this shift in the marketplace, and there's going to be this fear of missing out. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to want to miss out on this exceptional market. So that's when we get a lot more sellers coming in, which is why we get this jump a little bit in the inventory. And so which brings us back to rising rates is the answer. And if you remember back to that one where I talked about the market shift, we're just not there yet, because there hasn't been a lot of change in the 10 years, so that we haven't seen a lot of lift in interest rates. We started off at 2.65 and now we're stuck right now at about 3%, but we need to go higher. 3% historically is still a really low rate. We need to get to at least about 3.5%, and it may take us through this whole rest of the year to even get to 3.5% at this point. And if you look at I just put these two. This was from that presentation that I did on the market shift, and it shows what happened in 2013. And this is why you want rates to go up, to change this marketplace, because right now our marketplace is unhealthy, and we can't continue to go at this trajectory for a super long time, or we're really going to eat into affordability down the road and make us more vulnerable to interest rates that rise. But here you see where interest rates rose in 2013. That's that dotted green line. And then you saw what happened to the inventory in 2013. That's that increase. And if you remember, 2013 was the other time prior to today where we had this historically low level of inventory. Right now, our inventory is a lot lower than even then, but you get the picture. What happens is interest rates go up, which we've already experienced in 2021 so far, but then we've seen it come back down, just as it did in 2013. So if you're like me, you're rooting for 10-year Treasury to go up on the back of good economic news and different things like that, so that we can watch the interest rates rise as well. And then we watch our inventory rise like it did in 2013, because that's when there was nothing on the market. By the time we got to the end of 2013, there was a lot more homes on the market, which set up a better 2014 that wasn't as crazy. Still a seller's market, just not as crazy as it was in 2013. So that's what we're rooting for. Is we're at a crazy point right now. Interest rates go higher and we can get more inventory, so that in 2022, it will be a little bit easier to navigate. So that's what we saw in 2013, is that rise in the inventory. And then if you see what happened also, and I don't have the rates on here, but you know that the rates increased from this point on, and in 2013. And you could see what happened to demand. It totally diminished and got down to a point where it just slowed things down enough where inventory was allowed to catch up and was allowed to accumulate. And then the expected market time also started to go up like crazy as well. And if you see this, you could see how the expected market time grew from where it was at that 40 days all the way up to just surpassed 90 days by the end of the year. 90 days is right where it's just beyond a slight seller's market became balanced. And that happens at the end of the year. It goes up a little bit. And then at the start of the year, 2014 was by no means a bad year at all. It just started off at a lot better place than 2013 did. And that's what we're hoping for 2022 as well. So if you look at that, that's 90 days if I draw a line across. And if you see where we're at today, this is where we're at today. And we're not even at that 40-day threshold that we saw in 2013. We're at 24 days. That's just far too low. And if you remember to what I was talking about last week, this is above here. Below, between the black and the green line is a slight seller's market, and between the green and below the green is where we call a hot seller's market. Now, when you get further and further down below a hot seller's market, it becomes a little bit crazy, a little bit unhinged. And you're at that 40-day threshold or below, that's where it's crazy. That's where we were in 2013. Now, today we're at 24, which makes it even crazier, because when you get to that 20-day threshold, that's where it's nuts. And there are certain markets that are bouncing right around there. San Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego are bouncing right around that 20-day threshold, and just absolutely crazy. And if you look at at where you have to be in order for prices to actually go down, it's above this 120-day threshold. So you have to be above 120 days. You can see we got there for a hot minute in 2018, and that's when we had interest rates rise towards 5%. And the only other time that we saw this doesn't go back far enough. It does in Orange County, because that's where I started my housing report days. It happened, of course, and we were seeing it in the expected market time as early as 2006. And it was about 2006 we were seeing it. It was really slow, and it's where the market should have gone down in price, but it didn't, because we had subprime and junk loans and things like that we had to, as a band-aid, as a temporary band-aid, until this thing whole imploded in 2007. And then in 2007, it was just off the charts. We had an expected market time north of 300 days, and that's why we saw prices just absolutely drop off a cliff. We're not even close to anything like that, and we're not going to get there. What I'm talking about right now is we're not going to get to any time soon values coming down, period. Instead, what we're going to see is a shift in the marketplace, where we go from crazy nuttiness to more of a hot seller's market, and maybe even by a year's end being at a slight seller's market. This year, I think all bets are off, and it's going to be a hot seller's market pretty much for the remainder of the year. We just need to slow down that pace. And the only thing that's going to do it really is going to be more inventory, and more inventory and demand maybe come off a little bit. And that only can happen with these low rates that we've been talking about. So go to reportsonhousing.com and click on subscribe. And it's $15 per month or $150 per year. You get a month free if you sign up utilizing the coupon code pricing. And I'd like to thank my buddy and your buddy, Kevin Buddy at Monarch Coast Financial, dealing with everything from full documentation loans to private money loans, everything in between. And he's been doing it since 1976 and has loads and loads of experience. You can contact Kevin Buddy to help you and help your clients at 949-422-2075. That's 949-422-2075. And he knows his stuff. We can talk shop, talk a little econ, because he's been doing this for so long and is just a wealth of knowledge. So that's all I have for everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining me once again. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy this weekend. If you had comments or have questions, feel free to load them up. I will answer them when I have the opportunity. But I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you on the